We are on mute, so we can. We're not on mute. Hello. Hey, Sherwin.
How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing all right. Although I'm feeling like I might have bitten off more than I can chew, if you forgive the horrific pun.
Horrific. Yeah, I think today we're recreating zombies from Raccoon City on a one-to-one basis. Every single zombie in Raccoon City we're painting, right?
Pretty much. How many do you reckon we can paint in an hour?
Well, all of the ones in front of us. I've been already pimping everybody with your pimping your incredible painting skills to everybody. So they all know now how many what you can paint in an hour.
How many
So
can do
the
in an hour?
expectation is high.
All right. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. So let's where should we start? Should we start with Claire and Leon, or just blast through some zombies? Let's blast through some zombies. I don't know if we need dogs, do we? We want one liquor for our playthrough tomorrow.
That's correct.
And then as many zombies as we can get through. So I've sorted them into, like, there's 3 different molds, 3 different kind of poses. So we're just going to paint them in batches. And 1 liquor is all we need. So I'll leave the cops. I'll do the cops at a similar time to Leon, although he wears a different coloured uniform, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's arrived for his first day on the job, but we're in the wrong uniform, which is not the start.
Okay. Right, let's start with these guys. So I'm just going to smash down some flesh colour. So I'm going to try and use really simple techniques. So this is just contrast flesh going down. Neat out the pot, and I'm starting with this because this is a nice light colour, and it's going to make it just a bit easier when I come to just layering the clothing colours on, just to know where the lines are. And the beautiful thing about contrast paints is they're all pre-watered. So you're busy at the moment, right? You're all hands to the pump for the upcoming Kickstarter event, aren't you?
Basically, I spend all of my time writing blogs or responding to people on Facebook groups. The community's been awesome with this. I've been working for a very long time on Resident Evil 3, the board game by now. But it's really, really cool to be able to finally talk to the community about it. But boy, they have a lot of questions, which is good. And it's really encouraging to see how much enthusiasm there is.
Was there any questions that surprised you in particular?
Interesting one. I think a lot of people, it's the weird ones that kind of throw you. Like people being slightly confused by, we've switched around the way that we have weapon proficiency in Resident Evil 2, for example, where characters can only use certain weapons.
Right.
And for Resident Evil 3, we made the decision that actually, because these are trained soldiers in most cases, or Jill, who's obviously a member of the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, they're just going to know how to use weapons. So we don't really have to worry about proficiency as much anymore. They're not civilians.
Gotcha.
And what's interesting is a few people have been completely thrown by the idea that on the card we now have starting weapons rather than doing it otherwise. So that was one that kind of threw me a little bit.
Right.
It's nice to see there's so much enthusiasm though with people who are really interested about mixing and matching RE2 and RE3. That's it's cool that we have so many people who love RE2.
Talk to me about that. What's the skinny in that regard?
Well, Resident Evil 2. So Resident Evil 2 had we developed the survival horror engine,
Yeah.
which was this sort of very very much a critically acclaimed kind of engine, which really let us have this sort of dynamic kind of feel of characters moving around, enemies reacting to that, and obviously kept the action quite tense and quite focused, which was really good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we kind of, when we looked at making RE3, well, much in the same vein as the original RE games, kind of really built up using that core engine and then kind of layering on extra detail into them, extra ideas, that sort of jazz. We kind of thought, well, let's do the same for this. So we'll build on the base version of what RE2 Survival Horror Engine is,
Yeah.
and then we'll fold in lots of other features like the campaign, the sort of the overarching stuff we talked about doing there, which people will be able to find out a lot more about next week.
Yeah, I remember you and me having quite a lot of conversations about that. The RE2 engine, we both fell in love with it when that was being developed, and really could see a lot of extra things that we wanted to do with that engine. And yeah, the campaign system that you mentioned is one of the things I'm really looking forward to seeing how people enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm also. I really can't wait for people. I think people are going to love that. That's like the best part. The best part about that was I remember us talking about it, trying to work out how to do it, and then I think I told you this. Like I remember sitting there one evening, kind of just trying to wrap my head around the best way to incorporate backtracking and incorporate various different ideas, and then it suddenly just dawned upon me. Well, I say dawned upon me. I woke up at 2 a.m, grabbed the notebook next to my bed, and started feverishly writing in it, like how we were going to do this thing.
That's when the best ideas happen. Or
Right,
either that, or when we're driving up to Manchester.
Right. Yeah. So for people actually watching this, yeah, all of our best work is done in car journeys.
Basically. So we live about 4.5 hours drive from HQ. So we go up once every couple of weeks. But we get to spend 4.5 hours chatting about games, talking about ideas, get some really good brainstorming done, don't we?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's just a really nice, creative sort of hub. To be honest, like the inside of that car is so many random ideas for different games.
Oh yeah,
it's awesome. So at some point, we should probably just put a microphone in there so we can actually play them back and remember what they are half the time.
Yeah.
I think too many kind of random late drives back or early drives up there kind of tend to jake the memory a little bit.
I think you're obviously forgetting all of the rather random traffic incidents that happen while we're driving at high speed as well.
Yeah, I mean that's not really our fault. That's the other driver, right?
Well, quite.
Us being completely safe and all that.
You know, they're in the wrong lane basically.
Yeah, but going back to the original question, RE2. So yeah, RE2. You could probably, if you wanted to, you could probably take some of the characters from RE2 and play them in RE3.
Yeah.
So the idea of the game is obviously the core engine, the survival engine the survival horror engine is very much. It's a similar thing. Obviously, it's expanded and changed, but there's no reason why you couldn't, if you really wanted to, try to budget a little bit to make it fit.
Well, I remember, and I don't know how much of this is this spoilers, so stop me if I'm straying into dangerous territory. But I remember when we were first talking about it, one of the things that we loved about RE2 was the tension deck, and the conversation that we had was, well, that doesn't have to be limited to just one place, does it?
No, exactly. Yeah. And I will not necessarily expand on that just too much in case we get spoilers. We have a whole article about that next week.
Oh, have we? Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. I was kind of fishing a little bit because I don't quite know what articles you've got coming out when. But
no, that's cool.
Yeah, that was a revelation when we kind of. I don't know if it dawned on us, but certainly it was vocalized, and we kind of just thought, yeah, actually that opens up a whole heap of possibilities.
Right. I mean, we already said today that people will hear that the tension deck evolves now. So as you play the game, it will evolve around you,
right?
And different things happen with it. And I'm not going to go any much further to that because obviously that's what the subject of the article is next week.
Gotcha.
But I think it's really cool because a lot of part of that is really going to drive people to this idea of kind of this game is playing me almost now.
Right. And
which
is
cool.
it revealing too much to kind of say that each time you play it, it's different? The game reacts to what you do, or is that am I straying to?
I think that's super fair. I think everyone's going to enjoy that part. Well, at the moment I'm looking at this, most of the comments in there, everyone wants to know whether we've got a mercenaries mode.
If we've got a
In the
what?
comments, a mercenaries mode, Mad Jackal Mercenaries.
Right.
That was the mode in the original RE3 game, where I mean it's kind of extra to the canon, but the idea is you play one of the mercenaries, and you have a bomb implanted in you, and you have to race through the city to get to a certain area. And if you do, then you kind of get the bomb defused. Otherwise, you explode.
Nice.
And you have limited time. And the other is you can kind of kill enemies to sort of keep the time going up and stuff. It's like a time challenge mode.
Right.
So
is this the bit where you say we'd be mad not to?
that's exactly what I said. We'd be mad not to. I mean, I don't know. You can have a sensible conversation about making a tabletop RE3 without considering that you probably could make that sort of mode in it.
Right.
Which is all they're getting out of me.
I think that's not unreasonable. I mean, you know, we've still got a couple of weeks to go before the Kickstarter goes live. So
28, 11 days.
We should all enjoy the reveals as they come.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a torrent of angry messages or of winky faces in the comments, but they're not coming. So they must be. So I'm guessing that everyone's super happy about that.
Either that or YouTube's got either a filter or a really, really, really long delay on it.
Yeah, I like the idea of it's a massive lag on that.
It's got it's maybe marketing are in control of this video secretly, and it's being rerouted through marketing HQ to make sure that we're not doing too many spoilers. How many zombies do we think we're gonna do? Because I feel being pretty good actually. I'm gonna just contrast paint, and then I'm gonna do a slight little pimp at the end with just a few little spot highlights just to pick some stuff out. But these are zombies, man. I'm just gonna gore them up once we get some base colours on.
Good.
I reckon we're gonna do all of them in an hour. That'd be pretty
well,
cool.
I like the we because I'm absolutely watching you do this. But that's fine.
To be fair, it's moral support.
Yeah.
And it also stops me kind of wandering off and getting bored doing something else, which is an important part of the process.
Get you in trouble with the aforementioned marketing thing as well.
Tell you what,
their existence.
Right. I would like to. I might go back on these after I've done them. So I wouldn't mind trying to put a little bit of sort of variance just into sort of skin tones and hair color and stuff. But just because I want to blast through these are basically. This is the old how to paint an army technique.
We've actually got one of the guys in the comments, Table Ready, who said he really appreciated your speed painting video from Adaptation. And,
oh, cool.
He never thought to use a contrast paint for wet blending. It's a game changer, apparently.
Yep, it's those paints are ridiculously good once you start really playing about with them. There's a lot of different tricks you can do with them. Right, so let's just get a little bit of flesh on our heroes. We might take a little bit more time with these models because obviously these are our playing pieces. So just as an FYI, I did spray these black and then used a zenithal highlight, which I did put through my airbrush, but that's largely because I was too lazy to go out in the garage as always, and it does give me a little bit more control than using a rattle can, but not a huge amount. Because I'm painting these in a big batch, I didn't do too many spot highlights, so this is really how it would look if you just used a can of white paint from Halfords or whatever the equivalent motor company is in your particular neck of the woods.
Yeah, whatever your motoring emporium is.
Whatever your motoring emporium is. What was that one that we had in Chelmsford that all the boy racers used to go to? It's up Broomfield Road. What's it called? Motor Mania, I think.
Not being a boy racer, I would have been able to.
Were you never a boy racer?
No, you can tell from one look at me.
Oh, okay.
I was like the pasty goth kid sitting there listening to whatever.
No, I 100% was a Right, talk to me about liquors. There's a bit of flesh in here and there's quite a lot of... Right, so we might do a little bit of quick wet blending. Talking of, let's just move these guys out of the way so they can dry.
You've also got a question back from Table Ready as well, which is what kind of airbrush do you use?
So I've got a couple of airbrushes. The one that I always seem to go to is an Iwata... what's that? HPC Plus. And I love it. And the reason I love it is because the nozzle on the end is just a flat surface. So when you're doing a reverse bubble, so if you put a mix in and you want to bubble it through, you can actually just put your finger over the end and then just lightly just bring it back and it kind of bubbles through. If you see like the air coming back, got a little bit of air left in my tank. Whereas some of the other ones that have like an exposed needle, obviously you can't do that, so that just becomes a bit awkward. And this is just part of the way I've always painted it, and also the fact that the nozzle comes off really easy, so you can clear like a lot of light colours. You get quite a lot of clogging on the actual end of the needle. So, you know, they're all good. I've got Harder and Steinbach Infinity, I think it is, which I don't mind at all. But I just keep using the Iwata. Right, let's get some Flesh Terror Red. That seems appropriate, and get these guys out of the way.
Can you see the chat, or is that just something that just happened to land on the same one?
Kind of. Yeah, because I've got me kind of bionic glasses on because I'm old and can't see very well.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, Flesh Terror Red has just been suggested for this.
Cool. It is cool. Quite a dominant colour, so I'm actually going to take a little bit and stick it just on the palette, just so I've got a little bit more control. I can always go in and strengthen it a little bit afterwards. I'm going to stick a bit of glaze medium into there as well. Just, I'd rather build that colour up rather than go, oh god, that's really strong.
Makes sense. Mostly, a liquor is, imagine if you, best way I've got to describe the liquor colours if you're not familiar with that. Imagine if you turn the zombie inside out and it's probably not far off.
Alright, so they're pretty much all red. What about the brain colour? Is that a separate colour?
Yeah, that's kind of brain colour.
Alright, sweet. Okay, so I've got my watered down Flesh Terror Red, which I'm just going to go on, and I've put a little bit of Guilliam Flesh in there just to give it a little bit of a natural colour. Whoa, it's alive. Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's ever so slightly, it takes me about 10 minutes to kind of get used to the weird angles that I have to hold models at. Just to make sure they're in the camera. If they're ever not in shot, do let me know, because I've got like a little secret mark on my mat that I use.
Well, you've been okay so far. We've got a couple of familiar faces in the chat as well. Dave Middleton.
Oh, lovely Dave. I love Dave.
Yeah. Also, Sai, who might not be necessarily familiar to you, Matt. He's one of our hardcore RE2 guys.
Oh, cool. Which is encouraging. Cool.
It's pretty exciting actually. I'm recording with Sai tomorrow after we've done our playthrough.
Right.
I'm going to be doing some recording for a forthcoming First Aid Break podcast talking about Resident Evil 3 Port.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's super encouraging.
I hope he's got some cool questions for you.
There's a host of them. There's like about 28 questions for me. They asked the community what they wanted to ask.
Right.
And very foolishly, I agreed that yeah, that's fine. We'll just stay on as long as possible. We'll just answer them all.
No, God. So that's
it's great. There's so much interest.
That's your weekend done. Wait, and we're not playing. We're playing Resi tomorrow. We're going to try and do a Resident Evil game across lockdown, aren't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
This could be the greatest thing ever, or the worst thing.
I like to think of it as like real dedication to kind of cosplay. Like basically, in time of lockdown, we are basically going to be locked. We're trapped inside Raccoon City.
Right.
It's the same sort of vibe.
What colour are their tongues?
Tongue coloured. Like it, literally like a sort of, stick out your tongue and you can't go far wrong.
Okay.
Sort of pinky red at most.
Alright. Well, look, that guy will do for now. I've given him like a flesh-coloured brain, which seems...
Yeah.
I think brains are kind of fleshy sort of colours, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right, zombie dogs. We're going to need a few of them, aren't we?
4 in total.
4. I think I'm going to need a brown, so let's find a quick brown. They're Dobermans, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe like a snake bitey leather sort of colour, and then we can go in afterwards with a bit of black and tart that up, can't we?
Yeah, unless you want to make one like Lassie, just a comedy moment.
for controversy. I could sneak an Animal Adventures in.
Being chased down by, I think all the zombies in Animal Adventures are cats though.
They are. No, there's the evil necromancer who's a dog.
Okay, there you go. But I think he raises cats. We're sort of well off our subject now.
That is true.
So what
welcome to the car journeys that we have.
Yeah, welcome to Freeport, Matt and Sherwin, everybody.
Yeah.
So let's have a quick look. We've got looking to start painting miniatures. What would be a good paint set to start with?
A good paint set to start off with, right? So if you're very first beginning with painting, then you want to be looking at a miniature range that's with that in mind. So something like Army Painter, or I would go with Games Workshop. And in fact, I would probably go Games Workshop first, because you've got the support network of being able to go into a Games Workshop store and saying, hey, I'm trying to paint this model, can you help me? And they are brilliant people in stores invariably, and will be more than happy to sit down and chat with you. You don't necessarily have to tell them you're trying to paint some models for a board game, although I'd rather suspect that they're just happy to chatting about hobby stuff anyway. So, but they're all good paints. But if you want to copy some of these techniques and a lot of the ways I like to paint, use simple washes and colour. Games Workshop do the contrast paints, which is what I'm using at the moment, which you'll start to see the benefit of when these guys start to dry off. So I would go G-Dub to start off with, I think. What do you reckon, Sherry? You're a decent painter.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the other advantage you have with the GW paints, and Army Painter, to be fair, I'll follow up this either, but especially if you're a beginner, it's nice to just know that GW paints are always available pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
You have such a wide network of GW stores, plus they're carried pretty much for every single gaming store. So if you run out of a colour, then you can very easily replace it, and you don't have to sort of search up and down the country to find it.
Yeah. And GW's got like obviously a well sorted mail order function as well. Although to be fair, Army Painter and things like that can definitely you can definitely get them off Amazon. Depends on whether you support Amazon or not, I suppose.
I'm not sure anybody has too much choice about supporting online companies at the moment.
It's getting that way, isn't it?
But yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it's for me the interesting question is I'd actually probably come down more to washes and things, and what you're using now, which is contrast paints, are really, really exceptional. They are game changers for painting bits and pieces. And I think Army Painter themselves have like incredible variants of washes as well. So if you're looking for especially with like loads of browns and stuff, like Army Painter's excellent for that stuff.
Yeah.
So
definitely. So what the big secret with contrast paints, of course, oh god, I've swamped that guy. The big secret is they are a paint, they're a high pigmented paint, and they are pre-diluted for you. But a wash is a wash. So you can actually take any paint and make a wash out of it just by diluting it with the right type of medium. And the right type of medium is how you want the paint to behave. So if you want to glaze a model, then you use a glaze style medium, and if you want to wash a model, then you use a bit more of like a matte medium that's maybe got a little bit of viscosity difference. I will show you.
Well, in the meantime, while you're looking for that, I'm going to answer a question, which is, what was my favourite boss fight to adapt for RE2? That's a really hard question, though. I think the one I had the most fun with was actually Birkin Stage 1. And that sounds like a really weird one, because it's something where he's quite a basic kind of boss compared to some of the others, but with him, with all of our bosses in RE2, we tried to do something quite different. We wanted each of them to have different gameplay. We wanted people to have to work out different things they could do to beat them. So, for example, if you're playing Birkin Stage 2, then he's all about loads of explosive energy to start with, really lethal, but as you kind of start to do damage, you want to kind of spike that damage as hard as you can to start with, because then that basically means that his offensive power kind of really starts to dwindle.
Right.
And it represents what happens in the game. Versus if you look at Birkin Stage 3 by comparison, I mean, Birkin Stage 3 is pretty formidable anyway, but starts off at a relatively low ebb considering his overall power level, and then really ramps up as the fight goes on. So we tried to mix it around a lot. Birkin Stage 1 was interesting because with that we tried to create we tried to do a bit of storytelling with it, in the sense that to start off with, he's kind of like really the early stages of having G virus in the body, so he's not that lethal. And the habit you want to get there is you want to run in close, because that way if he's trying to swing a big iron bar at you, and if you're really close, if you're in the same square, then he can't hit you very easily because you're kind of dampening the swing, because he can't swing around and hit you. And then halfway through the fight, after you've done enough damage, he kind of beasts out, heats up, and at that point you then want to do you want to create as much distance as possible, because at that point he then becomes completely lethal in close combat, and with one hit will kill you.
Oh, really?
Which is super fun. Which was super fun, kind of sort of going through various different ways we could sort of introduce that stuff. The other one I might go for is Birkin Stage 5, because that was, I liked how we turned that on its head. Rather than counting down the wound tracker, we actually counted it up with Birkin Stage 5. And as you damage him, you take out, as you do more damage, you have damage thresholds on the behavior cards, and you're stripping those out of the deck. You can never do so much damage that you kill Birkin 5 on his own. You have to wipe out his deck by doing it, which is linked to how many cards he's playing, how many cards are being taken out of the deck by how much damage you're doing. So it kind of works that way. It's
So wait a second. So they asked you which was your favourite fight, and basically you've listed off all 5 stages of Birkin.
No, I've gone with two. Stage 1 and Stage 5 are my favourites.
Okay.
They were the most fun to do. Okay, so Leon this time. Yeah, it's yeah, I think, I mean, I could go with any of them. That's like kind of asking me which one's my favourite child, to a certain extent.
Yeah. That's easy.
Yeah.
So
the actual answer I should have gone with is the giant moth, right? Because everyone loves the giant moth.
They didn't believe you, did they?
No, I remember the conversations about the moth. We were all kind of sitting around the office and like, is there anything we've left out of the game? Well, the moth. Okay, but no one likes the moth. No one likes the moth.
No, that's
I was completely unaware that there is a secret cult of the moth existing in the Raccoon City underground.
should be no surprise. Right, so I've just watered down this blue because blue's a funny contrast paint, and again, I can always build it up a little bit later on. But he's got like a lighter blue and then a darker blue in some of these pads, hasn't he? That he's wearing. So we can kind of
he's wearing quite heavy blue for the most part in his non-Raccoon City Police Department uniform.
Yeah. What colour's Raccoon City? Are they more grey?
So Raccoon City, imagine like the generic sort of cop kind of colours. So sort of a very much a baby blue kind of shirt, and then sort of a darker navy kind of trouser.
Okay.
Whereas Leon almost turns up looking a bit like he's almost wearing SWAT gear. Like he's got a very unique sort of approach to it.
Right. I don't know how authentic I'm going to be, so I'm just going to let's give these guys a slightly stronger trouser, and then a pale blue top. You say?
Yeah, it's pale blue. So I almost say like your blue wash you've done over white is probably actually going to end up being around about right for those guys, and then just a heavier kind of colour for the trousers. So, quick question for you. Earlier you mentioned priming these with your airbrush. How did you replicate the smooth nature of the GW contrast base coats?
How did I what, sorry?
How did you replicate the smooth nature of the GW contrast base coats?
That is an excellent question. So I airbrushed them, and if you use a rattle can or an airbrush, because of the way it works, you do end up with a tiny little bit of texture on the model. And contrast paints like to flow over a model. So one handy little tip is once you've finished priming them, give them a spray with a satin finish. So Retributor Armour, I think it is in GW, or Aegis suit in Army Painter. I just gave them a little squirt of that, and that seals in my primer, and also gives me a nice smooth surface to kind of work over, which is why my contrast paints are flowing really easily over here.
Makes sense. I think you've more or less hit the right time for the slacks, by the way.
Oh, rather be lucky than good, mate.
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably about right.
So what else is going on? So what have you actually released news-wise about Resident Evil?
So we've talked a lot about this week's all been characters. So we've talked about Jill, we've talked about Carlos, we've talked about Nikolai, and today was Nemesis.
Cool.
So The Nemesis article is interesting. It's spoiler-tastic for people looking at. I'm sort of dropping subtle hints for everybody now. Like there's so much stuff in there that may not be immediately kind of obvious. It's a spoiler or something along those lines. But once you actually learn next week some of the stuff how the game works, people will be diving all over, I suspect, and rereading back to find that information on.
Right.
Which is cool. I mean, I could drop a spoiler here, I guess.
I mean, there's no one here to stop you.
No, right? So one thing that we're sort of starting to show now on some of these cards, and the Nemesis one is the first one, is the new way we revise special attacks.
Right.
So in RE2, special attacks were triggered off of the Vigor Mortis card. So you simply drew the card, Vigor then told you to resolve the special attack of enemies that are on the same tile and stuff. In the case of Resident Evil 3, we wanted to revise that because special attacks just weren't happening all that much.
Right.
We wanted to find a way of making them more fluid. And I remember our conversation where we came up with it, which was we worked out a way of having a sort of soft coding a behavior deck type of approach, but without actually using behavior deck. So now these are triggered, and this is your spoiler, everybody. These are now triggered from whatever. When you actually draw a tension card, they've all got a small band at the bottom, which is like a different color banding. And then enemies perform whichever attack is on. If they have matching colors, they'll perform the special attack on their card that matches the band on the bottom of that card. So if you draw let's say the purple card, that means that there are any enemies on the same table as you, instead of performing a basic attack, do the purple special attack if they got it. Which now means that we have incredible variance of our enemies without having to actually have a specific deck for each enemy, which requires you to then build it, shuffle it.
And that is what we like to call elegant design, because for one player action, you get multiple bits of information.
Yeah, and it also gives you a little bit of dread as well. The best part about that is, players will be playing the game and they're kind of looking and going, I really don't want to be anywhere near any of these zombies because the card that we drew the last turn, it means that they're going to be doing a special attack. Let's get away from these people, which is cool. I think that kind of lends an interesting sort of decision layer depth for the players to interact with, which is good.
So I'm just going in, so I've got the same colour. So what I'm trying to do is this is a little army painting trick, is use the same colours but for different parts of the clothing, and it will stop them looking like a bit of a hodgepodge. And what I'm also doing, obviously with the cop models, because they're all wearing a uniform, they are all going to be wearing the same colours. But these other sculpts, whilst they're the same sculpt, we can just give them a different kind of key colour, and that should help just break up the silhouette a little bit. So we'll give some blue Daisy Dukes to this one, but then we'll start kind of mixing up the colour. They're not quite Daisy Dukes though, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Those guys, if you want to be canonical, are wearing should be wearing jeans anyway for the most part. So
yeah,
that kind of fits in the blues.
What I was thinking. I mean, I don't know if I want to give them all blue jeans, but
well, it's the 90s, remember? Like jeans are big back then.
Jeans are jeans.
I don't think they've ever been out of fashion. Maybe in the comments people will know, but I don't believe that we've ever had a stage where that's been the case.
Jeans were like a working clothing rather than a fashion item, weren't they?
Yeah. I mean, that's forever ago, right?
Could you imagine going back in time and just saying, in the future, people are going to wear these clothes and they're going to pay £200 for a pair of them, and they're going to come pre-ripped?
Yeah, right. That's the best part. What we're going to do is we're going to sell them to you, but they're even going to be ripped open, or they're going to be pre-washed, so they're actually faded in places.
They'll be like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Right, here's a good little thing. So I've missed her stomach somehow. Don't ask me how, with flesh colour. So I could go back and just dab a little bit of flesh in there. Or she's going to be a candidate for a really horrendous stomach wound when I get to doing my red splashes.
This is the highlight, right? For when you're actually painting zombies, you can just have fun with blood to make up and things.
Yeah.
So you have you already have someone telling you that this looks so easy. They want to start doing this themselves.
Yep. They should. Absolutely, they should.
Painting models is super fun.
Yeah, and look, I'm not doing anything spectacular. The only difference between me and someone who is just starting painting is is I've obviously done it for a little bit longer, so my brush control is just a little bit quicker. But what I'm doing here, if you took your time, you could achieve exactly the same effect with very little. What's the word I'm looking for? Very little variance on the outcome. It'll just take you a little bit longer, is all.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I mean, the nicest part I always have about painting models is I just like to sit down with my brush and pretty much forget about the world and just paint the model. And it doesn't matter whether that takes you an hour, whether it takes you half an hour, whether it takes you like days to paint a model. The important thing is you're having fun doing it. And it's just good to sort of really just kind of fall into it. So, thoroughly recommend it.
Oh,
the other, sorry, go on.
Especially with, I was going to say with basically with board game minis, especially the kind of minis that we make, we spend quite a lot of time where making sure they have loads of detail in them, and they are actually faithful to the original. But it does also mean that we, because there's a lot of detail, they are actually easier to paint as well. They're pre-assembled, so there's no reason not to have a crack at them,
Yeah. I mean, Dave Middleton raises a good point, which is exactly what you just said, which is that SFG models are always designed to be very easy to paint. And that's not just the actual detail itself. That's something where I know you and Russ, our sculptor, spend a lot of time going over our models to make sure that you create areas where the paint is going to be easy to take and stuff, and it is going to be something where a painter can really enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
This is something where we definitely have that in mind when we actually make these things. It's only people like myself who kind of get involved and start demanding extra detail because it doesn't look close enough to the source material. That kind of causes headaches. But so sorry, everyone. But yeah,
no, it just becomes a challenge. So yeah, actually, I assume is there people on the stream who don't necessarily know who I am or what Russ does and all that kind of stuff?
It may well be. I mean, I can see there's a couple of familiar faces, but certainly in the comments there'll be people who don't necessarily know that. So if you want to introduce yourselves, go nuts.
We should have done that at the beginning. I mean, that would have made us look really pro, wouldn't it?
I mean, yeah, we are totally professional.
It was like, I like the way that marketing were kind of pinging me about 5 minutes before the stream going, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "I don't know yet. Maybe."
What am I doing?
Well, yeah. Where am I supposed to be? So my name's Matt, and I have lots of different titles. It depends on who I'm talking to, but generally I like to say I'm the creative director for Steamforged, which means that I get to work with lovely people like Sherwin and Jamie and all the other guys in the development team and the design team, dreaming up all the games that we make, and I get to effectively be the user representative. So I try and represent the end user's point of view once a game's in development. So invariably, Sherwin and I will come up with an idea. We'll spitball it out and kind of start laying it down in terms of actual detail. And then it goes into the development team, and then we manage the development team from a product owner point of view. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds about right.
I mean, I do other kind of boring kind of directory stuff, which I try not to do too often, but I have to. They keep dragging me in. Right.
So yeah,
and then Russ is our art director, lead sculptor. He's phenomenal. So he and I work very closely from a visual point of view, and Sherwin, you're lead designer, so you and I work very closely from a design perspective. Is that about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's and I think the core thing is that I think what everyone really seems to need to know is that you're basically never grown up in a lot of ways, and you've kind of maintained that kind of youthful exuberance to your life.
Absolutely.
So I think, to be fair, our communities for Guildborn and God Tier both appreciate the fact that you seem to not be able to do anything without unleashing spoilers everywhere. So that's always encouraging.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So let's have a quick look. I have a couple other questions to look at. So what characters are we going to be playing tomorrow? That's a really good question. And the obvious answer to that has got to be Leon and Claire. Because, quite frankly, you can't play Resident Evil 2 without being Leon and Claire. At least if you're beginning to sort of make a stream for people who may not have seen it before.
Also, they'll be the ones. They'll be the ones we've got painted.
Well, I mean, there is this too.
Yeah.
There is this too. So I appreciate in the hour we set ourselves to paint all these models, by the way, that we did start a fraction late, so we've probably got a little bit of extra time leeway.
I don't mind going a little bit longer. I've got I'm playing D&D a little bit later on, but I'm no particular rush, so I wouldn't mind getting. I mean, I'm going to try and finish these off for tomorrow anyway, so I might as well do it here.
Assuming we don't have any complaints, so I don't think anyone's going to be too worried about it.
Yeah, well, if it gets dull, you can let us know and we'll just turn it off.
Yeah, there is this. So let's have a quick look. What else have we got there? Dave Middleton says if you were professional, it would keep you worried.
Right.
So what have we done with the real Matt? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. The game's very fun to play. What made you think of adapting Resident Evil into a board game initially? That's one for you to start with, and I can follow up afterwards.
Yeah, so prior to starting Steamforged, I did about 17 years developing video games for a living. I was quite a senior producer for a number of different companies and different big projects, and I worked for Capcom for a while, so I always sort of stayed in touch with friends there. Yeah, basically when they and I were having a catch-up drink, and we kind of talked about what I was doing, and they said, "Oh, what do you think about Resi?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, that'd 100% be perfect." And I think what was interesting about Resi, as because I am not an expert player, I've played through them back in the day, but I am not, like I say, an expert user in any way, shape, or form. But the thing that struck me was how everyone seemed to focus on the zombies, and yet to my mind it was always a game about surviving the horror that was happening. And really, when I first started thinking about it, and then fortunately discovering that Sherwin was a super fan, and we started talking about this survival horror theme rather than it being just a zombie game, it really started to take shape at that point. So that's why we started to really lean into building the tension and focusing on those kinds of areas.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think I remember our first conversations about it were really very much a case of finding out what the core DNA is. We overuse that, but there's a good reason. It's a very useful sentence to describe what we do when we're making games, and I think it's something where we very quickly landed at, well, actually, Resident Evil is about it's about that sense of isolation, being afraid of what's going to happen if you're around the next corner. Unpredictability. This idea of I'm just trying to survive, resource management, counting every bullet, not trying to kill every single enemy because you'll run out of ammunition, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of stuff in there that you just don't get in a lot of when people think about zombie games. When they start thinking about horror games, they kind of just go to this sort of default of, so you need to try and kill this thing and kind of win that way. And it's just that's not Resident Evil.
No.
There's lots of stuff searching, and a lot of elements of the design are influenced by that. All of our scenarios in Resident Evil 2, for example, other than the first couple, which are kind of slightly more hand-holdy, we kind of introduced them saying, so with this the objective of this scenario is X, Y, and Z. It might be you've got to get into the East Office. We don't tell you how to find the key. You don't tell you that you need to find the key to get in there. We don't tell you how to find that key in the first place.
Yeah.
We just tell you that stuff, and at that point, in some cases, you have an item key that there isn't even actually an item for it. You have to work out how to get it through a different way, which means you have to kind of explore, find different items, find clues to work it out, which is very much the game itself. We don't want people to sort of know that stuff. We want people to learn it. And RE3 is a very similar creature in the sense that it tells you objectives, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to change those objectives halfway through the game.
Yeah.
And decisions you make aren't going to evolve what happens. And I'm actually going to offer a couple of spoilers here, another one or two. Resident Evil 3, the board game, has different endings.
Wait, right? Are you telling me that it's well worth playing more than one time?
I would tell you 100% it's playing worth one time, because I guarantee the first time you finish it, you're probably going to go, no, and be upset because you didn't do it well enough.
Yeah. Just going back to what we were talking about before, one really good example that I remember quite clearly, because we were on a design week, weren't we, focusing on Resi at the time, was because you mentioned the word like isolation, and this is one of the fascinating things about taking a product like Resident Evil, which is ostensibly a single player experience, and trying to capture that sensation, but also recognizing that it's now a group experience. So when we come upon the idea of having multiple start points in the levels and having the models or the characters starting in different parts of each level, that really drove it home how exposed you feel because you are the only person in that corridor and you are desperately trying to hold that lift for the other person who's rummaging through the filing cabinet on the in the police station, desperately trying to find the key or the file or whatever it is they're looking for, while the zombies are kind of constantly spawning up the stairs. That's when we knew we'd kind of hit the sweet spot.
Right. Yeah, that I think, and the other one I remember was being the discussion about how to use the ammunition dials. I remember that was really cool, going through that and kind of landing on how do you count down, and just the sense of you can immediately get it. I remember we were talking about it. And we went, well, how about we use a dial and you choose how many bullets you want to spend and count it down. And that instantly sort of fired off in my head, like I can imagine kind of tension of dropping this dial down and keep looking at it and seeing it getting lower and lower.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. So what else we got? Jamie Bodrum wants to know what kind of brush are you using?
So I'm using a Redgrass Games size 2 at the moment. I tend to use that and my Winsor & Newton Series 7. Don't buy the miniature brush. Buy the normal brush because it has a longer set of bristles. But that's a size 1. I then use this guy, which is my size 3 Raphael 8404, and I use that for like a lot of base colouring and everything. And as you can see, I don't look after my brushes very well. But I don't know, man. Like, life's too short to kind of worry about brush soap and stuff like that. Like, a new brush will cost you 15 quid for a good brush. If it lasts for 3 months, it's only cost you a £5 a month. You spend more on that in soap.
That's a very, very good point. And you could probably make it last for a lot. That's probably quite a generous, quite a limited thing. I think your brush is probably going to last you longer than 3 months to use it.
Yeah, I mean that Raphael is at least 2 years old.
Right, exactly. So some of that £5 a month gets stretched a lot now.
Yeah, it's still kind of going. So I'm going to give that guy black jeans. She can have this sort of sandy yellow top. We'll have a quick spot check in a minute, but hopefully you can start seeing how just using different like little highlight colours is starting to kind of just break up the silhouette a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we've had a couple of questions in the meantime. One quick one straight away. When you use a new paint, could you put the name into the camera view so it's useful for them?
Oh yeah, beg your pardon. I normally do that. So I'm just on Skeleton Horde at the moment. Skeleton Horror.
Which is a GW contrast paint.
It's another GW. Yeah, every single thing that I'm using at the moment is a GW contrast paint. And I'm not really... So I'm probably one of the worst people to stream because I don't really paint scientifically. I paint quite artistically. Which basically is a flouncy way of saying I make it up as I go along. But at the moment, because I'm just base colouring, all I'm doing is looking at the group as a whole, so you can sort of see them coming in. That I've got like a bit of a variety across them now. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the words you're looking for is I paint organically.
Organically.
I do it as I go along, and therefore I work out kind of how I want the model to look as it takes shape around me.
I love it.
Yeah, that's the marketing spiel.
Right. So the t-shirts for the cops, are they kind of like a baby blue, or are they like more of a grey blue?
Think like Space Wolf blue.
Oh, Space Wolf blue. So Griff Charger grey, something like that.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, so Griff Charger grey. Let's get that on these guys, on their shirts, and then we'll go in. We'll do a little bit more on Leon because he's probably dried by now.
So we have. I'm not sure how much you're able to talk about this one. One of the guys wants to know. We'll start with. He says the RE2 board game was his entry way to the video games to tabletop games. So awesome, glad to hear it. And the second one was, what games did you work on at Capcom?
That is a good question. So I worked on a game called Remember Me, which was made by Don't Nod out in Paris. Worked on that for a couple of years. So I got to spend a couple of years going to and from Paris every week, which was very nice because I love the French lifestyle and French food. So yeah, it didn't do my waistline any good. But they don't not do the Life is Strange now, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. Which is an awesome series of games for anybody who hasn't tried them.
Yeah,
Already recommend those.
they're like an amazingly creative studio based out near Gare du Nord, and I loved working with them. It was brilliant. So I was working for Capcom Direct for about a year and a bit on that project, and then Capcom just shifted priorities in terms of the kind of content they were making. It was around the time that RE6 came out, and there was a lot more emphasis on internal development, and a lot of the internal development for Capcom is done in Japan. So they focused on that, and there was a little bit less external publishing going on, which is what I was doing, and so I kind of moved on at that point in time, which was fine. It was yeah, it was good. It was a good time.
Interesting. We've got a couple of Remember Me fans in the audience, which is encouraging.
Got some what?
We've got some Remember Me fans in
cool.
the audience.
Excellent.
I think you missed out one of the big games you worked on in that list.
Did I? Which one?
Yeah, probably Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I did work on Devil May Cry. It's yeah. Oh, it's a cool game. It's a cool game. We worked on the. I was at Ninja Theory at the time, and we worked on the DMC, which was a well, ended up being a bit of a Marmite game, but was a game that I'm thoroughly proud of. Brilliant combat system in there, and a lot of that experience developing that actually went into the combat system on Remember Me.
There you go. Cool. So what else do we have?
But yeah, I was at Ninja Theory. I was the basically head of production for Heavenly Sword and Enslaved, and Pigsy's Perfect 10 was where I cut my chops on writing. So I did the production and the writing for that. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. In the meantime, back to Resident Evil. And is there an enemy from RE2 or RE3 that I found exceptionally difficult to adapt? To the tabletop, I'm guessing that is interesting one. Do you know our first versions of? Oh, I can't talk about that one. I can't talk about that. Okay, so RE2, probably the moth of all things that came along right at the end, and it was a very very odd enemy to try and create because it doesn't do anything. But I remember very specifically sort of sitting there and showing the dev team kind of a short video of the moth and actually what it does in the game. And it is an enemy that hangs on a wall. You can run straight past it and it just watches you. You can use the terminal you're supposed to use in the actual room it is. You only counter in one place. You can use the terminal and then run out the room, and it hasn't even noticed you're in the building. And if you do go close enough, it kind of flops on the ground, sort of wanders around a bit looking confused. And then if you tread on it, pretty much it dies. So that was kind of an interesting one to sort of give some different gameplay aspects to. I actually had to go back and play the game a few times and just put my character in the room just to see what it did. Like just kind of throw myself at the character, then just sit there without touching the controller and seeing what animations the moth actually had. You know, whether it climbed up to me to attack me or it flew about a bit. I ended up watching some of the Resident Evil Gun Survivor stuff because the moth appeared in that to see how it attacked in there, and that's really where a lot of the animations and a lot of the idea of what it does came from. Because at that point, I got to sort of look outside of the canon a little bit and kind of get an idea for how it could do some stuff, and that's why I ended up with the spore attack where it poisons people. So that's that one.
I think the alligator was tricky because of the size of the model. And obviously one of the things we have to worry about is tabletop real estate, and that's a hard limitation. So with the alligator, that was another consideration, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had same with Birkin 4 as well, where it's just this beastly great model that we had to try and move around because there's no way of doing it otherwise. And especially because when you actually get to the Alligator as well, it's another one which doesn't have an awful lot to it in the original RE. It kind of just chases you down the corridor. Yeah, you kind of get the gas canister into his mouth and blow it up, and then you're done. Or if you can, and this is something which I learned during the dev of RE2, is you can actually just shoot it enough times it just smashes through a wall and leaves, which I didn't realise. So, but there we are. But it's I think that one's the other one that was kind of tough to do because it just really is something where you don't want to break the canon of the game. You don't want it to feel like it's not Resident Evil, but at the same time, you have to take some slight liberties with it to kind of get it to a point where it actually has board game gameplay.
Yeah.
So, but the interesting part, I think, about most of the Resident Evil stuff, I was kind of thinking about this earlier on, actually, when just touching on the subject of gameplay, is that I think a lot of our community interact. I saw somebody actually wondering about they're going to use their RE2 models to create like a D&D adventure.
Oh, nice. That's
I
cool.
know, right? And something which I think is really interesting about the RE2 game is that a lot of our community don't interact with it in the same way they would do a traditional board game.
Right.
Like it's got much more an element of, obviously it's a campaign game, or it's certainly become that, but there's much more an element of it where people are almost using it like a sandbox in some cases to create their own versions of RE games, or they're kind of really exploring different ideas that you have in a traditional board game where it's kind of we set up our models, we do our thing, and then we just blast through. People are really starting to expand on that stuff, which is really interesting. But I love that. I love that fact that our community is so invested that they actually want to try that stuff.
No, couldn't agree more.
That's cool.
Right, so, I'm just going in with Black Templar at the moment, just as an FYI. Just spot. These are basically where we're starting to just pick out a few details. So like belts and stuff like that. I probably won't soak too much time into this because I can tidy this up a little bit afterwards. I don't want to get back onto Leon, but I'm also hooked into trying to get through all these zombies.
You're invested now.
I am invested. I want to do a dry brush and then I want to do some red splash, and I can't do that until I've kind of got a lot of these base layers down. So I'm desperately trying to power through these so I can show people how to dry brush, because that is the first technique to kind of really learn. You won't necessarily win any painting awards with it, but you will certainly paint armies quickly or models quickly, and you'll start to learn which part of a model should be highlighted and which part of a model should not be highlighted, because the dry brush will do it all for you.
Yeah, I think that's. I remember there's that magical moment when you first start painting models and you do your first ever like dry brushing thing. It seems so counterintuitive to actually do it the way that you actually do dry brush stuff.
Yeah.
But then you do it and you see results. You're like, oh, now I know how to paint.
It's definitely worth doing.
I'm a legend. I can do this now.
And once we dry brush, then a lot of these like little details will pop out, and we'll all feel good about life.
Well, the zombies probably won't. I mean, ultimately they're still zombies.
True. I'm not sure they're that bothered though, are they?
I don't know. Maybe they're communicating their own language when they're groaning at you, like, "Hey, we want to be friends," and just happen to be shooting them everywhere.
Yeah.
They just come and give you a hug.
I mean, are they actually unhappy? I don't really know.
I don't know. I don't think any of them are kind of ever sort of express kind of. None of them really have sad faces. They kind of look a bit stunned.
You say they're literally just baked walking around. They're not actually zombies.
Yeah.
They're just searching around for snacks, and like the garage is out of Monster and Pepperami.
That's exactly what they're looking for. Yeah. They're just looking. They are just got the munchies. Literally, they've got the munchies.
Please note the stream isn't sponsored by Monster or Pepperami, but it is sponsored by patriotism.
Yeah, other snacks are available.
Other snacks are available, but they are less patriotic.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's an amusing concept. Like, these zombies are just kind of really misunderstood. They're the misunderstood heroes of RE.
They're the heroes that we really want.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we need some more questions, or alternatively the lag is massive on this, so I can find more. Because otherwise you guys are getting 3-4 Matt and Sherwin, and maybe that's a good thing.
Well,
Maybe that's a dangerous thing.
I don't know if that is a good thing overall. I'm not going to lie. I've lost the colour somewhere. So I'm using Volupus Pink and Dark Oath Flesh, and I'm just trying to come up with a bit of a tongue colour. Yeah, that's about right. It's like he's drunk a load of Ribena. Lovely. Get that colour on there. So liquor is kind of ready for dry brushing.
Yeah, liquor shouldn't be Liquor should be mostly the same colour, to be honest. Other than random bits of bone and sort of random bits of bone and occasional brain.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to go back to Flesh Terror Red. Going to grab a bit, mix it in with that purpley colour that I made for the tongue. And then I'm just going to go in with the dogs, because the dogs have got some like exposed bits of flesh and stuff, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got some bits where they're zombies. They've got bits torn out.
Yeah, so I'm going to just... So I'm using like a really sort of heavy sort of stippling, so I'm just jabbing the places. Doesn't really matter, because they are zombies, that if there's a little bit of overspill, I'm kind of happy with that. And kind of give them a little bit of claret around the old eyes and mouth. They've probably been eating some stuff.
Yeah, if you see a pristine dog running towards you in Resident Evil, it's probably just an actual dog. I don't think you really need to worry about that too much.
So, quite happy with this colour choice actually. I wasn't sure when I first put it on, but it's all right. I can go in and put a couple of little bit of white muzzle kind of feeling to it, and Dobermans have like a bit of black and tan in them, don't they?
Yeah, that's fair. Like you need to kind of give them a little bit more, some darker areas on them somewhere.
Yeah. What is this thing? Is that like just a big... Oh, that looks like
Ribs.
a dead person, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, yeah.
So let's just... When in doubt, with a zombie game, splash it with red.
Yeah.
That's my new motto.
I will. I'll ask Russ to confirm what it is, but if memory serves, it's a zombie head.
Right. Well, it's a big pile of mess at the moment. It's fine.
So, question: do I table ready again? I love the flavour of the lore and the tension cast. Did I write the story text and the tension cast? Yes, I did, and that was possibly the crowning achievement of my life so far. Getting to write lore for Resident Evil.
I told you he was a super fan.
Yeah, I would worry you. Even before I started working on the RE project, any of our RE projects, I sunk about 400 to 500 hours into the game.
You don't know.
Now that's just gone up.
Sherwin doesn't smile much, but he definitely broke into a full weird grin when I talked to him about RE being a project that we're going to work on.
The downside, yeah, that's very true. But the slight downside I found is apparently I'm a morbid enough soul that even the green tension deck cards just sound really, really bad.
What?
Like the green tension deck cards are kind of like, yeah, overhead the light is flickering, you're safe, but for how long? Stuff like that. And like that's the card you want to see.
Yeah, I begrudgingly give you something that might be positive, but not for much longer. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to hit some Nasdrig yellow. I'm just going in with some hair colours.
Critical Blio, in the meantime, has asked whether the playthrough will be the B files or the core game. Core game, my friend. We're going to be starting off with scenario 2A. We're going to assume that we made it through to the police station, and we will be doing scenario 2A.
Yeah, I mean, expert players like ourselves would not have failed at that first mission. Well, I might have.
It's all right. I'd probably be able to pull you through. Yeah, so that's fine. It's, yeah, we'll start off with these things, and we'll do it as a campaign run as well. So we'll have the shotgun, I think, for that one. We'll start sensibly. I'll give you the shotgun, Matt. So you've got a bit better chance of survival.
Sweet. I'll take it.
For future reference, Matt will be starting off on the second floor, so that way he can have some fun with the zombies up in the library and in on the landing area.
Yeah.
And I'll be dealing with the liquor downstairs.
Who am I playing? Am I playing Leon?
You can choose that part. I don't mind.
Okay.
So you can have a think about that, and then choose whichever model you paint and which one you think is your favourite, and go from there.
Sounds good to me. Right.
I mean, if we want to do totally pro, we could do the advanced rules for Lair and Leon.
Sure.
From the survival horror expansion, we could use those if we wanted to.
Right. Does that just mean we're going to lose in public on stream and then have a load of people going, not even the blokes who worked on it can defeat this?
No, I think we'll be fine. But it kind of is just an interesting thing. If anything, it might be Leon might be a little bit more forgiving if you were to play him, because it means that you technically get an extra life if you're about to die.
Right.
But Claire might be a little bit more challenging. We'll see. We'll see how we feel. But so, is there any reasons why the art direction of designs are based on the original Resident Evil games, not the remake ones?
Spoilers, right?
Come up. Yeah, there's some things there. Spoilers is probably the immediate answer. I mean, it's worth remembering that when we started working on Resident Evil 2, that was a way back before we had too much stuff about Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yep.
At the time, so much the same with RE3. So, table ready. Not a question, but someone who ends up teaching the game a lot. I appreciate how you structured the campaign to introduce more mechanics.
Dude, you spent a long time on that. So this is a really good example of the difference between design and development. And so my stepping off point is really the point where we've got, the core mechanics. So moving, shooting, how's the reload, how is that important, getting the multiple start points, getting a sense of how long each sort of scenario should take, what the complexity levels are, all that kind of stuff. But then it goes into development, and that's where these kinds of things just get polished into the game. You should talk a bit more about it because it is interesting.
One of the things it's a weird one because it's incredibly counterintuitive to write a rulebook the way we did in Resident Evil 2. And that sounds slightly weird because I'm pretty much sure everyone who's actually watching the stream has played Resident Evil 2 and appreciates the way the rulebook is. But the very first version of the rulebook literally has kind of the rules that you'd expect. So it starts on and says, this is the action phase, this is how you move. Kind of, these are the different actions, this is how you move, this is how you attack, everything else. Then it has another section which is kind of, these are all the possible enemy reactions, and then another one saying this is the tension deck. And it kind of goes into a lot of detail and all that stuff, and it kind of gives you all of the rules in one hit as you go through. But in order to play the game, you then need to basically read through a 30-page rulebook before you can then sit down and go, right, okay, so now I remember all that stuff, I've got it, and now I need to go back to the rulebook all the time because I need to work out what I'm doing. Like every time I take an action, I need to go back to the rulebook and see how I do it. Whereas with Resident Evil 2, we very much wanted it to be something where it's like a video game tutorial. We're extremely appreciative of the fact that a lot of our Resident Evil 2 backers would not necessarily be people like we had earlier. This was their first introduction to kind of contemporary tabletop games. So at that point, we really wanted to make something which kind of flowed out quite nicely. And the obvious way you do that is by not bombarding people with loads of information. You tell them what they need to know so they can play through and they get it. And it reinforces over the course of the scenario, and then you introduce things slowly over time.
Yep.
And I think that benefited really, really well from Resident Evil.
It feeds into something that we talk about an awful lot internally, don't we? Which we call the Christmas Day test. Which is what is the fastest time on Christmas Day from you receiving a new game to you actually playing the new game? And if it's more than 10 minutes, we're not happy. So really, if you've got to sit down and read an entire rule book to then go and play the first scenario, well then we're not happy with that. So that's where we decided to kind of break up a lot of the information that you need. Because at the end of the day, for the first scenario, you only need this much information, right?
Right, exactly. The scenarios are actually built that way. And because of the way the tension deck works, and because of the way that the different sort of elements go into it, we can actually structure it quite nicely. There's a spreadsheet somewhere on my machine which has got like the various different scenarios we had for Resident Evil 2, and actually for free now as well, where we basically had like a big list of stuff. And it was almost, you can almost imagine something like a Trello board where you're kind of grabbing Post-it notes and sticking them. Oh yeah, you've got all the scenarios listed across the top, and you're just grabbing and go, right, so we're going to use typewriters in this one, we're going to introduce an iron box here, we're going to introduce corpses here, for example, and that's kind of dotted around the various different things. Yeah, and
that's a technique that I used a lot when we're making video games. Is you've got to teach the player how to play, and there's three key stages when to teaching something. Is you show them, you show them in a situation, and then you test them. So, you know, so take a jump in Mario, the easiest thing in the world. So first of all, you show them. So, hey, here's a ledge that you can just jump up to. And then you say, and now show it in situation, right? Here's a Goomba that you've got to jump over or jump onto. And then you test them. Here's 2 Goombas, and you've got to jump on one and then on the other. And then by the time you finish that, you know how to play, you know how to use the jump button.
Right.
Simple as that. Right.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The other part of that question was someone saying they absolutely loved the quartz mechanic. The quartz mechanic was, I think, the very first thing.
No, that was my RPG idea, wasn't it?
Yeah. So originally, it's super interesting. It's the very first thing you told me about RE2, about what you had as an idea.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the game evolved from there. So the original version of RE2, you had one player played as effectively Umbrella, and then any other players would play as survivors.
Yeah.
And the idea would be that we'd have corpse tokens dotted around the map, and as players moved around, the Umbrella player could choose to activate them, and then sort of basically stand them up and start moving after them. And I mean, we moved away from that ultimately because we ended up automating the Umbrella player to the attention deck.
We did
over time, but the corpse mechanic stayed, and I specifically remember after the first little bit of time after we first automated it, originally zombies had 2 wounds. We were replicating the fact that a lot of the time Resident Evil would shoot the zombies, they fall down on the ground, and then they stay down for a little while, and then they stand back up again.
Yeah.
And I very much remember I've actually got pictures of it on my phone, being the massive fanboy that I am. So I thought I wanted to commemorate it, but I've got the original map, which was about a 10 by 10 what would now be a 10 square by 10 square map, and it had various different things like cars on it and little alleys that go off the side, and there were corpses dotted around all over it. If you killed a zombie, then the zombie fell down and collapsed over, and then it was something where if you went nearby, you had to roll the dice, and the closer you were, the more results on it stood it up.
Yeah.
But that was just so complicated after a time to keep track of. It was the real issue there, like having zombies in multiple rooms. That just became such a, I'm not going to say like an admin process, but it was just like there were a lot of wound tokens on the table. If you knocked the table, they kind of moved around a lot.
Yeah.
So as with all things Resident Evil, we kind of thought, well, how do we streamline this down to keep the action fast paced? And that's where the result was it actually came out now was, which is just roll the dice when you go over it. And you know, if you're unlucky enough to roll the umbrella symbol, then you've got to deal with zombies, because that still gives you that sense of trepidation. I don't want to be hanging around.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Right, I'm going to do some dry brushing, mate. So I'm going to use.
I'll let you do it.
I'm going to use a something I got from Superdrug. So basically, any chemist or pharmacy or whatever you call them, basically like a blusher brush or an eyeshadow brush, nice and soft. And then I'm going to use a Reaper Series. It doesn't really matter what, but I'm just using off-white. So this is Tusk Ivory. So it's basically a white with a little bit of yellow in it. And what I'm going to do is stick a squirt on at the top of my bit of kitchen towel here, and then I'm going to just get a little bit on the bristles, yeah, and then I'm going to try and take the thick of it off, but I'm also looking to kind of dry the paint out as I go and wipe off pretty much 99% of it. And you'll know when you've taken enough off is when you do the back of your thumb and you can barely see anything coming on your thumb. And then what we'll do is grab this guy here, and then we're going to just pull down, and we're going to just build up these highlights. Yeah, you see? Did that come through on the camera? I think so.
Yeah, it's coming through quite nicely. This is the most counterintuitive part of painting you ever do.
So I'm literally pulling down. I'm putting into it and then pulling down is all I'm doing. So I'm just trying to catch the upper edges, and what it does is it just leaves a little bit of paint, like the edges just catch it. That's one done. And then whenever I think I need a little bit more, I just soak a little bit more up. I've always used circular motions. I've seen people using all sorts of different types of motions, but I've always liked circular. Test it with my thumb, make sure it's not too heavy. Right, let's go in and do this cop. So again, I'm not pushing hard, I'm just literally just running it down the model, and this just catches the highlights. Now, if we want to progress to the next stage of painting, what we will do is we will not use a dry brush to hit those highlights, we will paint those highlights on. But this is by far and away the fastest way to paint. We just want to get these guys with a bit of colour. Oh, he's come up really nice. See how quickly and easy that was?
Well, I mean, dry brushing is, you have to be very careful with dry brushing. So the two things I'll add to this is it's less is definitely more when dry brushing.
Yeah, you can always dry brush more.
Yeah.
You can't dry brush less.
If you go too heavy, then you'll know because you basically just start painting wet paint onto the model. At that point, that's not what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But the other thing is because ultimately what you're trying to do is just leave the raw pigment on the actual brush because that's what's wiping off and leaving like a thing on there. But if you over dry brush, if you basically if you use it too much as a technique, you're really just looking at sort of a couple of passes to kind of put a little bit of lighter elements around the hard edges.
Yeah.
If you do too much, then you're basically going to end up with quite a powdery kind of result.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like.
Go on.
Sorry, go on.
You go. We're being terribly English at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you're going to end up with too much like a slight powdery effect, and that's great if your zombie happens to have been in a crypt for the entirety of its life, but otherwise, probably not the best. So, but the other nice thing about dry brushing, to be fair, especially with the zombies, is you're going to be able to go over this with a bit of blood anyway. So if there's anything where you kind of open a bit heavy-handed, then the blood will take care of the rest of this.
Exactly.
I'm interested to see what you're going to use for blood. Actually, I think I know, but I want to find out.
What do you?
Are you going to blood for the blood goddess, or are you going to go with something else?
I don't think I've got any of that. I was probably just going to use Flesh Terror Red and just stippling it on, but maybe I've got some. No, I've got some clear varnish somewhere, so I can some gloss varnish, so I can probably mix it in.
Yeah.
And give ourselves a little bit of.
Stippling is another technique that's pretty straightforward to get through awesome results.
That's true. It just takes a little bit more time, but these are looking pretty. I'm actually quite happy. What are we on? Hour and 20 minutes, and I've painted 12 zombies, 4 dogs, and a licker. That, my friend, doesn't feel bad.
No, that feels super efficient, my friend.
I am happy with that. And then I'll kind of playing D&D tonight, but I think tomorrow afternoon before we play, I'll be able to finish Claire and Leon off. And then should be good for our little stream. Then we got to do like a bit of a tech test. I'm thinking I'm going to use this camera that I'm painting with here. I'm going to have to clear this desk, lift the camera up a little bit, and then just play here at my desk. Will probably be the best way to do it.
Fair enough. I'm going to quickly ask a couple of questions in the meantime. So what's really interesting here is you've actually seen a non-painter who's actually so impressed with your painting style, they're going to try and take that painting.
Yeah.
Which is possibly the nicest thing. Thank you very much.
That is amazing because, honestly, painting is just a lot of fun. And, you know, we've all got board games on our shelves that we don't necessarily play as much. Obviously, Resident Evil isn't one of those, but there are loads of models out there that you've probably got kicking around the house that you can just practice with. And these skills, honestly, they're not hard. You just need to maybe be a little bit more, take a little bit more time. Like I say, I'm only getting away with it because I've painted hundreds and hundreds of models.
It'd be awesome if you can take a couple of pictures and then fire them over to me, and what I'll do is I'll upload these in the Resident Evil Facebook group as well.
Yeah.
So that people can see what they look like. Speaking of which, if any of our viewers, I imagine all of you are, if you're not, you should rejoin the Resident Evil Facebook group. Because the guys in there are super awesome. That's where our community lives, and they're wonderful people, and they'll tell you stuff like how to paint models, and generally, if you've got any rules queries or anything. Yeah,
there's model painters on there that are just amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
So, probably recommend that.
Right.
I have a couple, just a quick question about tomorrow. Sorry about the fact about Resident Evil 3, which is some tension cards from Resident Evil 2 will be in RE3. There's one off the top of my head that shares the same name. Which is the Vigor Mortis name, which is just wonderfully amusing for many reasons. And it doesn't have the same ability, I don't believe. So there's a couple which might be vaguely familiar in terms of the actual abilities they're using. I think Tough Hide might have made it through actually as well. But they will have different abilities. There's not much crossover in terms of the actual tension deck cards themselves. We certainly haven't taken anything and kind of gone, yeah, let's just copy that. We've really kind of expanded on what's the elements of it. So that's that one.
Right, secret weapon, drying blood. as a wash. I've put it in with a little bit of the Flesh Terror red that's left on my palette, and a couple of drops of gloss varnish. I have never tried this before, so this is going to be glorious or not.
Okay, well, if the
This
stream
is
something
kind
dies,
of what it looks like at the moment. That seems pretty good, though, right?
Yeah.
So I might stipple this, although that's quite wet actually. Let's just splodge it on. I mean, they're zombies. Oh, hi, Teddy. All right, Teddy's come to say hello. Getting his little basket. Right. Where's me stippling brush? This one I do. So this is a particularly knackered. I'm not going to show you who it's by, but it's just a knackered brush because it's academic who it's by. This is a brush that I have abused mercilessly. So you can see by how bad the brush is at the end. I'm literally just dabbing it in, but I'm trying to keep it all splayed and everything, and then that's going to help when I kind of come on to just splodge it onto the model. I don't know if this is actually strong enough. I think I want a
slightly darker colour.
Yeah, I do for now.
Yeah, stippling brushes can be literally any knackered old brush you have. Like they really, you don't. That's the best part about something like a brush is that you can just really, if you've got a brush that's near the end of its life and it's kind of completely splayed and it's not really useful anymore to you in any way, shape, or form, you can just use it like for stippling. It's just perfect for that.
Oh yeah, he's got a nice bit of blood trickling down the front of him.
Yeah, that was always the most interesting part when we were doing the sculpting for the zombies. I remember we did all the Resident Evil 2 zombies, like the lion's share of them were done. Russ and Charles, the sculptor you mentioned earlier, and I just jumped on a call at the start of the day and just blitzed through and made every single one of the RE2 zombies in almost in a day in terms of the raw starting point for them anyway. And then he went in over the next few days and kind of tidied them up and added their other bits. But the best part of it, we were trying to work out of each one of these zombies. How did this zombie die? Like, how did this zombie die? What's the story of the model? Because obviously you have to do that with models. You have to work out what story it's telling.
Yeah.
But we kind of like so how did this guy die? Or maybe like maybe his arm got bitten off, or maybe like this is the exposed bit of flesh that the zombie's got, or whatever. And then the best part is what injuries happened afterwards. So so there are a couple. There's the Kickstarter, a couple of the Kickstarter exclusives. There's I think the poor naked zombie who just looks like he was trapped in a corner of some room and mauled by a whole horde, and that's how he died. By comparison, there's a couple who are relatively pristine and look like they basically just unfortunately had a single bite and then that was it.
Yeah. But, I guess being mauled is the worst, isn't it?
It's in the original Dawn of the Dead where the guy like spends throughout the entire movie dodging zombies and then gets in a lift or an elevator and then unfortunately kind of just finds himself, the doors open and all these zombies are waiting outside. So, oh man, you did not do well there.
You always like zombie stuff.
Do you know, it's really weird. When I was growing up, I saw show my age now. The first thing I ever saw with zombies was Night of the Living Dead. Not when it came out, not that old. But was on like I think Channel 4's movie, like a zombie movie night or something like that, horror movie night.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that way back when, and being utterly terrified by it.
Right.
Because I was very young at the time. I wasn't very old at all, and certainly not old enough to be watching that movie. But after that, I kind of developed a slightly sort of morbid, instead of fun, sort of obsession with these things. Kind of thinking. The best part about zombie movies is that they're not actually about zombies. They're about the other story that's happening in the background.
Well, that's the whole
part of the environment.
That's the whole play on words, isn't it? With The Walking Dead, is
Yeah.
they're not referring to the actual zombies; they're referring to the humans.
Right, exactly it. And the best kind of zombie fiction or zombie movies or zombie games or whatever they are, they're really about the actual stories the survivors are telling, not the actual event itself. If you find yourself making a movie or writing a book about zombies, and it's literally just focusing on the undead all the time, you kind of miss the point.
Yeah.
So, one of my old friends of mine, who I've spoken to for years, we used to have a joke that we could probably make a whole series of Shakespearean plays set in a zombie apocalypse, and then basically just have the zombies as background elements do that.
Right.
And you wouldn't need to change the script or anything at all whatsoever. You just have it set there. Which apparently was such a good idea that someone then made Pride and Prejudice and zombies. So
right.
apparently we weren't the only people thinking this. But yeah, the Resident Evil section is a slightly different thing. That came out on the old PlayStation about 1,000 years ago when I was young, and I remember playing it way back when it first came out. And that was I just loved Resident Evil as soon as it happened. So
that's just one of those seminal games, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I jumped out my skin the same as everyone did when the dogs jumped through the window.
Oh, you never forget that.
No. It's comical because of the way that the Resident Evil 2 cutscenes actually work. I normally jump when, even though I know it's coming, when the licker jumps through the one-way mirror.
Right.
So in the original version, because everything else tends to happen with like the bars that come along top and bottom of the screen as a cutscene, but that one literally just smashes through. And just comes to get you. And it's always something, wherever I go in that room to go get whatever item is on the opposite side, depending on where I'm playing Claire or Leon.
Yeah.
I will always tiptoe into the room, kind of skirt around the edge as much as possible.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I've got the knowledge in me to know that, like, what the trigger is for the thing jumping through or not. But I'd rather be surprised. Like the part of me that kind of doesn't want to sort of map it too much, would just rather know, be surprised by it all.
Yeah.
So there we are.
Well, it's like I've studied cinematography quite a bit, so there's an awful lot of times where you're watching movies now and you kind of go, okay, you see the cues and you go, right, jump scare coming up, and you can tell by the framing, you know exactly where it's coming from. And sometimes you just have to let yourself go a little bit, don't you, and go, no, if I don't let myself be scared by this, I'm just going to spoil the experience, so you have to kind of go with it.
Pretty much.
Right. Just giving this guy a bit more of a heavy wash because this should dry a little bit more glossy because it's got that. Well, it's actually got a clear floor polish in it, but it's basically a gloss varnish. That's all it is. Right, that guy's done. So we'll quickly base them up, and as we base them, I am going to. Do we want to text? I'm going to texture base them. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm only going to do one. Because it is not the most interesting thing. So this is Astrogranite Debris, which is a texture paint from GW. So it's basically got like texture built into it. And I'm just going to make sure that it's a little bit fluid because I kind of just want a tiny little bit of texture. I want this to feel like a sidewalk or like a road surface. See how this brush got knackered, can't you?
A little bit.
So let's just take the thick off as much as we can. Then we'll grab a little bit and then push it in. So this is where what I'm talking about, experience of knowing how to use your paintbrush comes in. Because I'm just pushing the bristles in up to the surface where the shoe's coming out, and I'm keeping it all level so it's not spilling out all over the place. So I can actually be quite quick with it. And again, because they're zombies, a little bit of blood afterwards is going to hide a lot of sins. So I'm going to go on and do those, but let's have a quick line up so we can see what they all look like. So we've got the. I'll zoom the camera down a little bit. So we've got the zombie girls there, the zombie cops here, and then we've got the zombie t-shirt guys. So tempted to go in and do a Metallica t-shirt on that.
Watch the stream for tomorrow, whether he manages to resist or not.
Yeah. And then we've got a Licker, and I've kind of got a Leon, but he's not really close to being done, so we won't put him on. Let's get the camera down a little bit. There you go. How's that?
See what people think. Put in the comments.
And that there is how to paint 12 zombies, 4 dogs, and a Licker in about an hour and a half. Well, actually, in exactly an hour and a half. and all I've got to do is go around the edges of the base with a bit of black paint, tie them up, and they are good to go.
Yeah, and that's not far off. I mean, there's a few models missing, but that's not far off us actually having a core set of models for Resident Evil 2, the board game done.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So.
Cool. So I think I might hit the stop button and go and have a cup of tea.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you everybody for watching. Much appreciated. Hopefully you enjoyed. And for the non-painters out there, hopefully we've just sort of shown you just doesn't have to be the most difficult or arduous task in the world. It can be an awful lot of fun.
Definitely. If you do start painting and you do need advice, you know where to find me and Sherwin. And as we say, the guys and girls on the Resident Evil Facebook page are super friendly, so they will always be able to steer you in a direction as well. All right, so till tomorrow then.
Yeah. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.